Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
I'm Jim Love, and I am a keynote and motivational speaker.
And today is episode number 38.
38.
Of the Hustling Sideways podcast. Jim is actually going to be a very tired guy today.
Yes, he is. and the reason why is because he just came back from Nashville, Tennessee today.
Alan
picked me up from the airport.
Honestly, you literally got off of a flight and went right to a podcast.
I did. And Nashville is known for karaoke. And as you may have heard in previous episodes, I am a rather large fan of karaoke, and my voice was very hoarse as of yesterday. But
okay,
but it's back now. But I'm running off not a whole lot of sleep, and had a ton of fun. I stayed with my cousin. I got to see some coworkers.
His wife has no idea where he is right now.
None. Yeah, she'll be looking for me once this is over.
Yeah,
so we'll see how that goes.
Probably is messaging us.
Yeah, what is happening? Turn your phone on. But it was a great time. It was 90 some odd degrees like at every waking moment there. And I brought I'm a light packer. Alan and I were just talking about like what we pack when we go on stuff, and I'm pretty light. I brought like 5 extra shirts because I was like, I'm gonna sweat, and I can't handle this if I'm walking around just sweating the whole time. So we were at a pool, etc. It was a great time. But yes, I'm looking forward to an early bedtime and a home cooked meal. That's not the
Southern barbecue.
Yeah, Southern barbecue. So it'll be solid, but that's okay. We're at 38. We are approaching the 40 milestone very soon, and we're really excited to recap all of that. But until we do that, we have a great guest with us today.
And we have a new territory.
We have a new territory.
We have our first international guest.
Yes, we do.
In addition to however many states that we've saad that we were up to, I actually don't remember.
It was 18.
We were at 18 states already?
We were at 18. Yep.
All right, so 18 states, and now our second country involved. We are going all the way to Canada.
Hell yeah, we are. Our northern neighbors, we love them. And we have a very special guest who I actually, and Dave will say how we met each other, but we sort of connected on a podcast Facebook group.
Okay.
That's really cool. And it's a lot of people that talk about what they do and all their podcasts. So without further ado, Dave Campbell is who we have today. And Dave, I'm reading off kind of your Facebook profile bio, but you do so much stuff and we're excited to get into it. But Dave is the co-owner and co-creator of UpCycle Canada and a podcast host of the UpCycle Canada podcast. Also does 5 other podcasts and a couple jobs here and there. So Dave, welcome to Hustling Sideways.
Yes.
So yes, the applause, and I'm a listener as well, guys.
Yes.
So I actually hit play on your recording of your latest episode, which just came out like 9 hours ago.
This morning.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've already started listening to it already. So there you go.
Well, good to know.
That's fantastic. No, we really appreciate that, and we love hearing from listeners generally, and then having able to come and add value to our show, I think is fantastic.
Absolutely.
So thank you. And I think he thinks we're funny, which is I would hope.
Let's not ruin it.
Don't
ruin
it.
Yeah.
That would be
a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Always wanted to hear that. I was always wanting to hear that. No, that's awesome. Well, Dave, thank you, and we'll dive into everything you're doing. But obviously, it's great to have you. You have a great setup there. I know you do. A ton of podcasts each day, and so let's kind of dive into you and what you do and where you're at right now, and tell us a little bit about your work and then your these podcasts that you host and this whole journey that you've gone on into this world of podcasting.
I'm so happy to represent Canada for you guys. So if you have any Canadian questions at all, I'm happy
Tim
to
Hortons,
speak on behalf of all of Canada.
Tim Hortons,
Maple
Pizza
syrup.
76.
We have questions. Yeah, we have.
Everybody that advertises on an NHL dasher board is pretty much my knowledge of Canada.
He's got it all down.
There you go.
And the Great White North.
Yeah.
That's about it.
North.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. So very happy to be with you guys again. I love the podcast. I love you guys. I love you guys, how you interact with each other. It's so much fun. I even got the tagline down, keep on hustling. I'm ready to go, guys.
There we go.
I'm really excited about this.
Love it.
I stole your thunder there.
Hey, no, I'm good with it. You did it out of respect, and I appreciate that. I'm good with that.
So as one podcaster to another, really enjoy what you guys do. Thank you so much for doing it. And I listen all the time. So
Sweet.
Great to be here with you guys. It's my wife and I have a business. We started back in 2014 as our side hustle, hustling sideways. And we did that because at the time, my wife Jennifer and I both had 3 part-time jobs each. So we were working 6 part-time jobs, young family. There was days where my wife Jen would go to 3 jobs in one day.
Wow.
Ridiculous, right? And then so we got to the point where we just needed a little bit more money for medical, dental, for the kids, that kind of stuff, groceries. So I was contemplating getting my 4th part-time job. which would be 7 total. And I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to balance all of these different jobs and everything. I'm like, I'm just going to start something myself. So with no money, no experience, nothing, we created UpCycle Canada. And basically, we just take stuff that people don't want that are going to the landfill. We repurpose it, make something different, and then sell it. So I don't have to buy any materials.
Yeah.
I didn't have any tools. I had no knowledge. I had YouTube and Google, my best 2 friends. And I just figured out how to build a business with nothing. And instead of giving up, we just went that way. So we created UpCycle Canada, creating something from nothing, grew it to being a business, opened a store. Opened the store 4 weeks later, the pandemic came, shut us down.
Yep.
And caused me to go back to working nights and that's where I listen to you guys every week I'm listening to you guys on my night shift.
Nice.
So that's how I connected with you guys. So
yeah, absolutely.
So you really did you have experience in taking like things at all and like fixing them up, or you had totally self-learner and just figured it out?
The last time I was in a wood shop was probably grade 8, grade 9.
Okay.
And I had no tools, I had nothing.
Wow.
And I really didn't know what I was doing. So my first thing I made was I collect Coca-Cola memorabilia.
Sure.
I've been doing that for 30 years. So I have these nice wooden Coke crates that I got from Atlanta. I had them shipped up here to Canada. Beautiful wooden crates, but they're expensive to ship, and I can only afford so many. But I have Coke bottles out the wazoo. So I just wanted to make my own. So I just got a shipping pallet. I traced out this Coke crate, and I just made blank ones that I could put my bottles in. Somebody liked it, asked me to make them some. And from there, it just kind of grew from there. So the first thing I made was a Coke crate.
Wow.
Just
Awesome.
in a wooden box.
It is amazing how an idea can come about like that. You just try something and you're like, oh, this actually works, and someone wanted it, and now I'm going to roll with it. I think that's really cool. And that is that entrepreneurial spirit. Did I say that word right? Entrepreneurial? How do you say that? Where is
entrepreneurial.
That Entrepreneurial spirit.
You're very tired.
The hell am I talking about? Yes, and having that mindset is important. You're just like, I like the way that you're saying it. So like, I just did it. I went and I did it, and it happened, and this is the experience. I'm sure you just learned so much from that, and that's really invaluable.
Yeah, and you fail forward.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right? You're not going to be perfect. My first few things were not perfect, but now we've got to the point where we've opened the store. We live in Niagara, near Niagara Falls.
Okay.
So we have tourists coming to our area. They would meet us at a show, a live event. They would buy something and they would take it home. So we'd have people on their way home to England, Japan, Australia, and they would take our products home with them. So our products were going around the world, just organically moving around the world. And that's exciting for us. So we created the UpCycle Canada podcast during the pandemic. Again, listening to great podcasters, I'm like, I can do this.
Sure.
So again, with no experience, no knowledge, no equipment, no nothing, Google and YouTube, again, my 2 best friends, let's just create a podcast. And that's how we did it. So again, fail forward,
awesome.
Learn as you go. And then Jen and I do the podcast together. We have a great time. We've talked to people that we have no reason to even have a moment's time with them.
Right.
But they want to come on the show and they know about us. And it's surreal.
It's a gift.
So one of example was we had there's a TV show in the States, Salvage Dogs, and they're on the DIY network or Magnolia or something. But they have like 143 episodes, 11 seasons, and we reached out to them and said, "Guys, can we have you on?" They're like, "Sure."
That's amazing. That's awesome.
Like we watch you guys all the time. And we love what you do, architectural salvage. So we had Mike and Tay on from the show. And they were super, like,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, right? And so you have time with these people you watch on TV, and now I have time with people I listen to on my podcast or I listen at work. It's great just that you can connect with people, and
it really is.
This just opens doors.
I think we've had really similar experiences. Alan and I started this really because we just like to talk to people who are passionate about something. I think we share that in common, and our lives are not really the same. We do our own thing, and but we really love when people are excited about a thing. Like just pick something, and we found that that's always been the commonality with 30 some odd guests now is people are into whatever they're into, but there's always connections because like when someone is passionate about something, has energy around it, you're going to find the ways that they connect, and I love figuring it out. I love
the enthusiasm of people that have their own side business that start, and I like you've probably guessed from the amount of times that I've asked the questions about how did this start? How did this begin? Like, I love learning people's like idea of saying like, yeah, we're going to make this a thing.
Exactly.
Like that moment is the most exciting for me when you're like, yeah, no, I think I can really turn this into something and I can really go forward. Now, in your case, I mean, there's no experience previously. Was there any intimidation at all to say, you know what, we're going to jump. We're going to we're going to upcycle products. We're going to start with relatively no overhead, and we're going to create this thing out of basically nothing. Was there any intimidation at all on your end? Yeah.
The imposter syndrome. Like, who are you? Right. I'm a professional carpenter. I build houses. I'm smart. I've been to school for this. And then we show up in our little minivan in our tent and set up a table and sell our products. And people are like, I could make that. I'm like, yeah, you probably could. But you're not.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not making it.
But this one's here. Yeah.
People could do a lot. Do they actually do the thing? That's such a good point. Well, you could do it, but you're not. We are. Like, so sorry, period. That's the story.
Yeah.
So back in 2014, we picked UpCycle Canada as a name again, not with a lot of forethought into what the future could be for us. But people walk into our store now and they think that we're a franchise like a McDonald's. They're like, how many stores do you have in Canada? Well, one.
This one, yes.
How many people work here? Well, my wife and I, and we've hired one employee. Her name is Paige. She's 15 and she's amazing. But she came in as a customer and we just hired her. So it's like to see a side hustle grow, despite all the challenges of what we've been through as a world right now, to still see it grow and still see people excited and get what you do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah. We love having that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, was there any trepidation from your wife? Was she intimidated when you come to her and say, because I mean, like, you guys both sound like go-getters. Three part-time jobs, and that's a lot of scheduling nightmares. I'm sure of it. I can tell you from experience that, my wife and I are both very busy. That is a nightmare logistically, but to have 3 jobs and bouncing between all of them, any kind of apprehension on her part to say, we're going to start a store? Like, is there any, did she question you on it at all?
Yeah, just because it's the unknown, right? But the one thing that she's learned very quickly through our marriage is that when I walk out and sit down and look at her with that look on my face, she's like, okay, what is it now?
Everyone's
like,
got that look.
We're going to do a podcast, or we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And she just like, okay, I don't know where you're finding time for this, but I'm with you. And to have that support, that buddy
that's
in
huge.
life,
Absolutely.
that is just huge.
So now going into the podcast route, so you have 6 podcasts in total, and to talk about, are there more than 6?
No, that's right. Yeah,
okay, I thought you were just shaking your head.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I'm just shaking my
head.
head.
I want to make sure we're on the same page. Talk about the genesis of some of those, how the ideas came about, because I think they're all really cool, and obviously we share one about having side hustles, of course, and I'll be on yours soon, which I can't wait for, but having the dad one, I mean, you have a lot of different areas, and are these sort of popping up as similar to how your store started, of like, this might be a good idea, let's try it, or was there inspiration behind some of them, or how does that all go?
Okay, so so we started UpCycle Canada. We found like 2 or 3 episodes in, we started talking about our side hustle.
Yeah.
So you're coming to the podcast to learn about eco-friendly repurposing, that kind of stuff, and we kind of got a little bit off track. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not our audience. So if we want to talk side hustle, we need to create one. So we have, in conjunction with you guys, we have Living My Side Hustle. And if you go there now, you'll actually hear an ad for this podcast.
Yes, we love it.
We're so proud to play.
Very cool.
So anytime you hit play on our podcast, you hear this one first.
I love it.
So,
the minute I saw what you were doing, I was like, we have to collaborate. This is a thing that's happening. So yes.
So you guys are the first thing that pops up on our podcast, which I find great.
It's amazing.
Anyway, so living My Side Hustle. And we have guests on, we talk about that. We talk about the journey, and just encourage each other. If you have a goal, a dream, just do it, just start. So we started with that. And then I have a podcast for authors. My friend heard my other 2 podcasts and said, hey, I have authors that want to get on podcasts. They're not having a good experience. Can you create something like those other 2 podcasts for my authors? And I'll send them your way.
That's so cool.
I have Living the Next Chapter. So it's a podcast that connects authors and audiences.
Okay.
I've done I think last Monday, Tuesday, I had 30 interviews in 2 days.
Oh my goodness.
Around the world with authors.
Incredible.
And I'm talking to people that blow your mind.
Yeah.
What they do and what they know. Like there's times where I just want to run around the block after speaking to these people because they're so inspiring.
Mm-hmm. You've really created a community. That's so cool.
I'm not an author. I'm actually a musician. So I'm kind of liking what I'm hearing about breaking and entering as well. So I created the Add to My Playlist podcast on Spotify because Spotify allows me to actually play the entire song from an artist in the podcast without you leaving. And you can actually hit, like and add it to your playlist while you're listening to my podcast.
Yeah.
So I get people on talking about their music. They queue up the song, we play the song, and it's like a little radio show.
Yeah.
And it's all on Spotify. And Spotify now has a video component, which is amazing as well. Yep. So you can do video as well on there. So that's the Add to My Playlist podcast. People are asking me questions about podcasting. I'm not a podcast expert by any means, but instead of answering the question multiple times, I created the How to Podcast series. And then the last one, I created on Father's Day, Dad Space. Yeah. Again, a spot for dads just to connect and build community together. So Dad Space was built out of that. And I'm having a great time with that as well. My dogs are barking because my wife is almost coming home.
Oh, no problem. Okay. No problem. We love dogs.
Yeah.
Pro dogs.
Yes, pro dogs. But you touched on something there. Not an expert at podcasting, but I think having the experience of doing, 6 of them, doing them with regularity, I think we're in this space now where, we're not experts in this. We know that we're not experts in it, but we learn it by repetition. And I think that's kind of the world now, is that nobody's really it's not experts in the traditional sense. You just kind of learn by doing. And I think that's what you kind of have going with not only UpCycle, but with your podcast as well, is, you're learning it as you go along. I'm sure you've probably already kind of tracked where I was when I was starting as to now, right? Sort of thing. You can kind of see the growth on your end, right?
Yeah. And I think the one thing I'm learning from other podcasters that are way ahead of me is that if you have a built-in curiosity, you can teach as a student.
Absolutely. I love that.
It's fine. It's completely fine to teach as a student. You tell people, hey, listen, I don't have it all figured out, but this is what I've learned this week.
Totally.
Yeah.
And people love the journey. They love to follow along and go, I'm listening to you guys. I'm following the journey. I've gone all the way back to episode 1. I see how you grow. I see how you change. I see everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm part of your community because I'm one of your listeners.
I love it. I think so. People, what I've found, especially as a speaker, but also as a podcaster now, people don't relate to perfect. People relate to authentic. And it's, the more you try and be perfect, number one, you're going to disappoint yourself. And you've heard me speak about this. I'm very passionate about this. And everything you just said, Dave, is spot on. I mean, it's to put yourself out there, to be authentic in doing it, own up to your mistakes, learn, grow, fail forward, right? And you're going to create something. And I also want to go back to one thing you said about the author podcast you have. That I love that your friend came to you, knows that you do this thing, and was like, we need help, and you're like, yeah, let's do it, and just made one like that. That's because that's such a giving spirit, and for being an entrepreneur, a lot of people be like, well, I don't have time for this. You're like, no, you saw a need, you were approached about the need, did the thing, and now you have this whole 30 some odd interviews in 2 days. I mean, that's the genesis and of that being created, and how organic that is by a simple request, and you made a community. That's you created the thing based on a need, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's flip it back to you guys now, because I'm a podcaster too.
Yes.
So the one thing I love when I'm listening to your podcast, you guys come in hot, happy, excited at the beginning of the podcast. It's fun. The music's up. Here we are, right?
Right.
But there was one episode in particular, and Jim and I, we talked about this. You had a gentleman on, and he had a stutter. And your whole podcast, your demeanor as host changed.
Yeah.
You came down, and you were calm and patient. And as a listener, there was times where I'm like, I was wanting to speak on behalf of your guests, but you guys never did. You just let the podcast go. And it was the most relaxed podcast you've done so far. Yeah. And then probably one of the more meaningful ones for me as a listener, because you guys created an atmosphere for your guest that was amazing. So I don't know if you were doing that on purpose, but you did it. You did it really well.
I love that feedback. You and I were both very clearly touched when that was over.
Yes.
We like looked at each other like that was we both needed it. I think Pedro needed it. It was like a very, and just hearing and as you know, I'm also a person who stutters, and so for me that was obviously a very personal thing, and I'm glad I'm going to be on his soon as well. But that we just sort of like felt the vibe, and it was like, this is what we need to do, and
right.
So, and I because I in the moment, like, I think it was just sort of the natural thing. I look back and I'm like, he had a space to speak, and it was great, and he clearly had a story to tell, and I love that feedback, because we don't always think about it that way, of like, we're just kind of rolling with the guests, but like, I knew he had stuff to say, and it was going to take a little while, and we're going to hear it, and it was awesome, and I think his confidence was really inspiring for me too, like to hear his whole journey. So
yeah,
I totally agree.
Yeah. When we started doing this, like when we first had our initial conversation, if you go back to that happy hour,
January 2021.
Sure. Yeah. We did say at one point, we were like, yeah, we're going to have something that get a little heavier, but it's never like talked about ahead of time.
Yeah.
We're never like, okay, this one, we're going to really, dial it down, and like, we're going to get deep on this. It just never kind of is our style.
Right.
Is to really do that. But I mean, when you can recognize it when it's happening, you know what I mean? Like, we kind of recognized, like, I think both of us, and like you said, we were both very touched by Pedro's story, and to be like, wow, this is something amazing.
It was significant.
Resilience.
Yeah, it was really, and I just feel like he had the ability to share it. It was a very good moment. But it is true. And as you go on, and this is something in terms of like learning and figuring out, like you adapt to the people that you're talking to. And I think one thing that this has really taught me generally, following this sort of, I guess new passion of mine, at least. I know you've done podcasting for a while, but like, I put my phone down and I listen, and I'm there and I'm present, and I'm not, in most areas of my life, and I would say this is the case for a lot of people, being present doesn't happen often, being mindful and being there, and to do this effectively, and not, again, who knows how good we are, but I'm glad you listen. Like, to do this effectively, you have to listen, and you have to be with that person,
right,
and experience the same thing they are. And so it requires me to like talk back, and then if I'm like, okay, this is going slower, fantastic, let's dive in, relax. And if it's like an upbeat one, like with Donald was a lot more upbeat, we were just sort of like following along with him, etc. But and I'm sure, Dave, you experience that all the time when you just had people, and you just see how they interact, and what the topic's about, what the content is, and you sort of start adapting as they're going, which is not easy, but it's fun, and it's tiring sometimes too. But you finish and you felt like you accomplished something.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I've learned is in the podcast interviews I've done is, as hosts, we set the tone for the interview, for the podcast. So if we come in like super serious, like, gentlemen, I'm going to be talking to you about this podcast, and welcome to the podcast. Automatically, as guests, you
go down.
You just come right down to that same level, right? And if you're up here, you're up high, and you're like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" It's just like, "Oh, hey, I'm here too," right?
Alan used to do that.
You set that level.
Yeah, when we started, Alan was like, "Hi, my name is Alan. Yes. This is the podcast, and welcome." No, I'm kidding.
Since we're podcasting about podcasting right now, I would like to know, because I actually never have asked this to the people that we've talked to that have podcasts. Has it changed your interactions with people off the microphone? So like how you talk to people, you know what I mean? Like when you're at the store or whatever, has it changed your interactions being an interviewer?
Yeah, well, Jim touched on already, just putting down the phone and being engaged with people. Like, I've had, it's not a vanity thing by any means, but I've actually had several people on podcast episodes break down, and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
To be quite honest, I'm just like, I've never heard a podcast where somebody's broken down before.
Sure.
And I'm just a little spellbound. But to be able to create a space for somebody who's a professional, who has people who set up podcast interviews for them, and then for them to go somewhere they've never gone, that is amazing. Because as a listener in the podcast, even as the host and / listener, I want to be able to connect with my guest in a way that I will never forget them.
Right.
That's means more to me than rattling off the 5 questions I printed off of Google
100%
that I should ask my guest. I really want to connect with them and get to know them, and that means more to me than anything. And to have that 1 or 2 people reach out to us and say, your podcast meant something to me in this moment, or helped me, or I shared it because you guys connected, that means more to me than anything. And to see people build community around something that I produce, whether it's a physical item in my store or a podcast episode, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the most gratifying thing for you, and I think you just answered that question. It's really to have those moments, of like when one or two people reached out, or you really form something meaningful that you did. It's content from you that people are actually taking from. And I when I speak, I get this a lot. If I have a student reach out to me of like, I really love when you said this, and it's like stuff that I wrote that I didn't necessarily anticipate it having value, and I was like, this is just my story and the way that I'm looking at it. And then for someone to actually take it and be like, this had an impact. I'm like, that's the gift of it all. And you can't replicate that anywhere else in your life. That's really what I found. Is like, that's what I get from doing this. And that makes it not only fun, but just like, it changes you. For sure does. And I like your question too, because I feel like, I'm listening more, I'm like, because I'm talking, I blab all the time. I'm extroverted, and it's just sometimes I just talk to talk, and it's good to like shut up for a second and let someone else talk, and then like follow up. And to your point, Dave, when you talked about like, not having the 4 or 5 questions to run it by and just to like listen, it probably took me 10 episodes to stop writing down questions first. I would have them all, and I'm like, I know what they're doing, I know why they're here. Let's just talk and listen and respond in the moment, which is a terrifying thought. Because like when you're like, oh, what if I forget something to say? Once you get better at it, you're just sort of like, what I want to know more about that, or and then stop looking at my phone and be like, I gotta get to the 6th question. Who cares? Like just keep going. And one time, I feel like we've had times where we ask 1 or 2 questions and the whole conversation just like
takes off
goes.
from there.
And that's great. We don't we don't need to go through a script, right? And that's just humans interacting. And I think we need more of that. It's what makes yours successful too. Is you're able to meet them where they're at and adapt to whatever content they're going to give. And again, giving them space to emote if that's what needs to happen. I think it's really important. And that is a very it's a big deal for them and for you, which is super sweet.
Yeah. One thing I also want to ask too about being a podcaster and having, 30 interviews in 2 days and things like that, and being able to make it all work with 6 shows, that's a lot of content. That is a lot of time. How do you make it all work time-wise? How do you manage it? Because I just want to know for me, honestly.
Use as many tools as you can. I love like Calendly. I love all those things. I do all my mixing. I do everything myself. Mm-hmm. I was using Audacity before there were podcasts.
Okay.
To do music production for myself, for band rehearsals, and record them and send them out to the band. I would do all that. I'd mix. I'd do all. So I've been playing in Audacity for years, and to be able to take that skill set now and move it over to podcasting is a natural transition for me, and it's fun. Everybody tells me I should give it away, but it's like my baby. It's my toy. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give away my toys just yet. I will eventually, probably, but right now it's too much fun. So just leveraging the tools, and then just the biggest thing for me is to get as much knowledge and learn from others. There's 3 people in my life I love to have as one person ahead of me that I can look up to. I can become like. I can pattern my life after I want to be like. There's the person beside me, number 2. Who's doing life with me or along the same path as me, maybe the same level, and one person behind me as well. Person who maybe looks up to me, and to remember to reach back and support them as well. Yeah. Those are the 3 people in my life that I focus on every day. Who are they? And how will my life and how will today impact those 3 people? If I can keep that at the forefront of my mind every day, that's what inspires me every day.
Yeah, that's super cool because, it's a good mindset to have to go back and say, look, there are people that are learning from you, and you're people that you're learning from. And there is really no, chain of command as far as like, oh, well, I know this, you have to learn it on your own, kid, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's all like to be able to pay that sort of thing forward. It's like a good karma thing.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And that's how communities that are actually like legitimate get created. When people feel like they're a part of something bigger and they're having value added all the time, and they're getting impacted by it, and you obviously have that, and I think that's a really unique thing to have and something to be proud of, because it takes a little while to build that up, but once you realize you're in the space for a reason, and you're making real change is awesome.
Yeah. Let's hit some of the tough questions.
Yes, the big ones.
You've got 6 shows. You can only take one and go with it and be your main show. What are you taking?
I'm going to have to go with my most recent one then.
Okay.
Bad Space for me is...
Love that.
the conversations I've had with these guys.
What, the dad podcast?
It feels, yeah, it's called Dad Space.
Okay.
It's fun. And for me, the reason why it's fun is there's a lot of great podcasts for moms out there and a little less for dads.
Yeah.
Mother's Day, good luck getting a seat at a restaurant. It's packed. Father's Day, you can, no problems. You can get a seat anywhere. Yeah. Right. And I'm like, what is that? What is that imbalance? Why are guys so quiet? Why are we so silent? Why do we not speak up for ourselves?
Yeah.
Why do we not have community? Why does that not matter?
Yeah.
Why? And I just think we say it's a podcast for dads, by dads. And the beautiful thing is usually you have to have a book or a program or a coaching thing or whatever, an album to get on a podcast.
Yeah.
I have dads who come on because they're a dad.
Yeah,
exactly. They're not selling anything.
Yep.
They have nothing to sell, but they're coming on just to say, hey, I'm a dad and this is where what I feel I'm doing well. And this is where I really am struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm real.
I think that leads to authenticity too.
It does.
Because not everybody is coming on for press. Not everybody's coming on for a publicity. You know what I mean?
There's no ulterior motive for that.
Right, exactly. I think, like you said, most people, when they come on a show, they have something that they want to plug, something they want to promote. And it's hard to be like, all right, how am I supposed to take anything you're saying seriously? Because there's a hook at the end of it.
There's always something.
Yeah. So having dads just come on and be dads is something that is hard
and
to
realize that they're important. Like dads are forgotten about a lot. And I think that's true, and I know my dad feels that a lot. And it's having a space where they because there are real issues, and guys should be encouraged to emote. And I have a lot of thoughts about men's mental health that will be actually when you and I sit down for Dad Space. It'll probably be when I throw those out there. But it's just like it's like wild how often. Men generally, but dad specifically, like just kind of have to move on. Like you'll be fine, be strong. It's like you're a human. You're allowed to say how you feel. You're allowed to have thoughts, have feelings, and that they're valid. So it's really important. That's really cool. I'm glad that's been. It's like obviously a passion project, and I think I know that rubs off, and it's very evident for the people that they feel like they're heard. I think that's really important too. They actually feel like whatever they're feeling, whatever they're going through is heard and in a microphone that people are listening to, right?
Yeah.
Which is great.
Another tough question. What gives you more satisfaction? Having an amazing podcast episode or creating something really cool at the store that you're able to go and sell and you're like, this is my creation? Because they're both
creations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love when somebody can physically pick up something and go, I need this in my life. I never knew I needed it, but now I need it.
Yeah.
And they have that product or the thing in their hand. I'm like, that's quite amazing. We sold some stuff to a hockey player. His mom came in shopping at Christmas, and all the stuff went down to Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, nice.
And he plays for Nashville.
I know
the Predators.
I know that place well.
He just came from Nashville, and Milwaukee is the AHL affiliate of the Nashville Predators.
That's right.
So we might know this guy.
Yeah. So he opened a present that I made for Christmas.
Oh, that's very cool.
What's going on there, right? Like that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So I love that, but at the same side, I love that a podcast can build community, and I don't know, it's a tie. I got to say, it's got to be a tie.
That's great.
Okay, that's fine. I like that.
So Dave, with these 6 podcasts, all the work that you're doing, and I know you're in a good spot right now. Where do you see this adapting or evolving in the next 3 to 5 years? Like, do you feel like you're going to continue kind of on these and see what happens, or do you have a plan, or what's the site going into the future?
I'm hoping that the podcasts in their different forms and platforms will help to build a community. I would love to see a Dad Space community. We've all heard about MySpace, but I'd like to change that to Dad Space.
Yeah.
And create a community for dads just to do life together. And be accepting and a safe place for guys to hang out, no matter who you are.
That's awesome.
That would be amazing. Anytime that I can take the words and interviews and a podcast episode and turn them into a community building exercise, like we talked about, that's where I'm headed. I'd love to be able to do that. That's really cool. That would be sweet.
That's a very specific answer. That's attainable. I mean, I think that's good. I think you're well on your way to making that happen. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Okay, one more before we hit the what's next for you, or the where can we reach you?
Yeah.
Big question. Who was your hockey team?
Well, right now I'm wearing the Ottawa Senator hat.
Yeah.
I wear that out of spite because most people in Ontario have to cheer for Toronto for some reason. They're just terrible. So I wear Ottawa just to get under everybody's fingernails and make them nervous. So I do that I like to poke the bear a little bit. But yeah, we live close to Buffalo, New York. So I go to Buffalo to watch games because they really put a lot of time and effort into their fans.
Yeah. Okay.
And they go the extra level for their fans. So I love that. Really good. Good team. Obviously there's a lot of things you can do to get better, but they love their fans. They love their audience. They love their community. Do you see my segue here?
Yes, exactly.
Go with that.
That's what I was going to say.
The century there.
You've got plenty of community that you're building, and then you appreciate when that is happening for you too.
And I will say I was as a Chicago kid, I was a diehard Blackhawks fan for about 5 years, and then now I don't. After they stopped winning,
I was going to say the
Cups,
5 Stanley Cup years.
It was a lot of fun.
The big playoff years.
I was on the bandwagon, and now I'm in baseball and I guess football mode.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's where we're at.
I'm a Predators fan because naturally the AHL affiliate being up here,
I feel that.
Get to see those guys play when they're young, and then you get to see them play, and when go into the playoffs
Alan's like following all their careers step by step.
Yeah, no, you see names. You literally see names, and you're like, I saw that guy play in Milwaukee.
That's really cool. Actually,
I saw Pecorine, who was the Predators goaltender.
Yeah,
I saw him as a young kid come into Milwaukee and dominate. So
wow. Alan actually changed his diapers.
It
was wild.
Sure, yeah.
Wow.
No, okay, not that young.
Yes. All right. Well, this was awesome, Dave. We really appreciate you coming on here, and thank you, of course, for listening. And we'll keep it going. And we're excited. I'm excited to collaborate with you on yours here soon. And just really appreciate everything that you're doing, and know that it's making a difference. And it's a real pleasure to have you.
Where is the best place that we can find all of these podcasts, anything all under one roof? Where's the best place to follow
I created a little umbrella for everything. Thanks, guys, for having me on. TrueMediaSolutions.ca. It's a Canadian website.
Awesome.
TrueMediaSolutions.ca has links to all the podcasts that we do. And it's just a kind of an umbrella for everything because it was getting too confusing to give people a link.
Sure.
Yeah, that's it. So True Media Solutions.
And where's the store located?
We're in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just near Niagara Falls. And that's upcyclecanada.ca.
Perfect. Beautiful.
Is the website.
There we go. Love it. Well, thank you so much for being on. Yeah. We really appreciate it. And we will listen to your many, many podcasts as well. I'm definitely going to go check them out for sure. And if you guys are listening for the first time, thank you guys so much. You can find this podcast wherever you get your podcast. You can download us wherever. You can rate us 5 stars. It's the only one you're legally allowed to rate us at.
Good. Yeah, it's
the rule.
Forced to do it. 5.
Yes,
that's
5 stars. Got to do it. And if you guys want to be on the show, if you have a side hustle of your own,
how could they do that?
They can do that via Gmail. You can send us an email over at hustlingsideways@gmail.com.
Real original. Yep.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We are Hustling Sideways everywhere. Don, thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry. Did I just say Don?
Yeah, you were thinking about when we mentioned Don. His name is Dave.
I'm not the one that is tired. I'm sorry. We'll just edit that out.
Dave. Who the hell is Don? No,
Dave, thank you so much for being on. I'm so sorry.
Good. And
thanks, Larry and Joe. Thanks, Larry, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
Dave,
you know what? That's fine.
I'll let you send us out. You could say it.
Yeah, you got us.
Oh, can I do it?
Yeah, do it.
Keep on hustling.
There it is.
A
wise man once said. You heard it here first. Thank you, guys.